So welcome guys, thanks for joining me. It's nice to see you all. We're going to be doing a practice following on from yesterday's full moon. So today's practice is all about illuminating what it is that's kind of holding us away from our authenticity. And with the light of the blue moon, which is once in a blue moon, we often get this. It doesn't happen very often, and it's called a blue moon because there's been a full moon, the last moon, and then we have another one this month. So it's following on from that is the Aquarius. And because it's in Aquarius, it's allowing us to really at all things that are not aligning in how we look at ourselves and how we hold true to what is our authentic truth. So we're just looking at ways that we can really dismantle what is the not self. And we do that by really stilling the mind and coming more inward. So we can start to see our frustrations, our tendencies, things that we have a pattern of. And by illuminating that and making that clear, we can then begin to disassociate from that and move into truth and alignment with what is coming from our soul, what we need to be doing, and we can start to step away from things that have been programmed into us. So just taking this time for today to set an intention of something that you'd like to clear from your mind and ways of being that are kind of hindering you from living fully in alignment with your truth. And just to take a couple of moments to just really sit with where it is that you'd like to be moving forward towards, and how you can really make radical choices to move into that direction. So just take a moment to find a comfortable seat and close down through the eyes and just start to draw your attention into your heart space. And just first of all, feel your breath into your heart. And take a few moments to really sit and feel where in your life do you feel that there is misalignment or a lack of flow. An area that feels that it hinders or stops you from moving into positive alignment, and a space where you feel that you're moving without effort. In whatever area of your life it is, just take a moment to really sit with that question. And then I'd like you to set just a short intention for your practice today, thinking about what it is that you'd like to pull forward to make a radical change in that element of your life. So it can be more of an affirmation, or it could just be a knowing to yourself that you will do something different in order to move into more of an alignment with where you want to be going. But just create a short intention for today's practice. So the Aquarius full moon is asking us to make radical changes so that we can reclaim our freedom and sovereignty. So we make radically different choices that helps to reshape our future and our reality. It's also guiding us into liberation from oppression and internalized conditioning, which prevents us from living in our authentic truth. And this is a space for closure from the last Aquarius full moon, which was the 23rd of July. So even thinking back to what was happening at the end of July, where you were at, how you were feeling, what was coming up, what was stirring in your life at that time. And you can use the energies of this full moon to really create a closed circuit change, to see and honor what it is that's not sitting right with you, that's not making you feel good, and make a choice now to change that. Illuminate, release, and transform. So you can just gently start to flicker open your eyes. We're going to move into our first shape. So we're working through forward folds and twists for today's practice to really bring that element of elimination, that moving downward energy, Apana Vayu. So we're going to start with a forward fold in butterfly. So you might want to use some bricks to the sides of the hips, just to support the legs. Or I prefer to use a bolster, so it's really supporting the whole back of my knee joint. So you might want to grab some cushions or your bolster, anything that lets you feel nice and supported. And if you feel that your pelvis is kind of tipping backwards and you feel a little uncomfortable in your seat, just grab a blanket, and then you can either sit onto the blanket, folded about this thick, or you can take it into like a noodle shape and roll it round the sides of the hips, so you can just wedge it around so it feels really nice and comforting on the sides of the hips. And the closer the feet are, the more strong of a pressure you'll feel in your groin. So just feel where it's most comfortable for your legs and your feet to sit. And then you can begin to slowly on your exhale start fold forward. And just starting off with your first edge, where do you feel the most pressure? And then just come to that point. Take a few breaths there in the first edge, so you're finding where you meet a resistance or where you meet a deep pulling sensation. There's no pain. And once you feel that you can maybe soften a little bit more, then maybe finding a deeper edge. This could be after a few breaths or a few moments. We're going to be here for around 5 minutes. So just make sure that you are completely comfortable and completely propped up. You might like to let your head completely drop, so this is stretching the back of the neck. Or you might like to bring another blanket, a pillow, cushion, or a brick to support you. And then just letting yourself really soften into that shape. So no holding, no struggling, and just allowing your body to really drop. So in Yin, we want the body weight to feel held by the support of the earth. So really let gravity stretch your body, feel you are supported by the props. And in that support, you can really let go. So as we move through a forward fold, we're encouraging the energy of the body, the breath, to move down. And this is stimulating the elimination of the body, both physically and mentally. So if we allow ourselves to really release, use the breath as well in a way that feels releasing. So sighs, puffs, anything that lets the breath feel healing. And then once we've found that elimination, we can see that we've created more space. And when we let go of things that aren't weighing well in our bodies, that aren't making sense to us anymore, whether that's the food choices, whether that's the environments that we're in, the mental patterning, the routines that we've created. When we release those, we allow for more space for the right things to come in. As we find stillness in each shape, we're just allowing a little bit more stillness to come into the mind. And it's not a forcing or struggling, but it's just a gentle allowing. As we gently allow the body to open, as we find stillness in each shape, we allow the mind to come into more and more stillness with every shape. And if you find it difficult to let the mind just soften, relax, you can always just use your breath as your anchor point. Anytime the mind is wandering off, just gently guide it back to the breath. So we're here for about another 2.5 minutes. So if you feel that you can go deeper into the shape, feel free to maybe move some props out of the way or let yourself fold in further. And then again, come back into stillness. So just taking another 2 or 3 rounds of breath. Just mentally preparing ourselves to come out of the shape. I want to take our time as we transition, just allowing yourself really, really slow movements. Just finish the round of breath that you're on here. And then use your hands to gently pad yourself back up to a lifted position. And you can pause with your head and your heart just stacking over your hips again. Just let yourself come back into a more neutral position with the spine. And just feeling how the body is as you come out of the shape. And then you can use your hands behind the backs of the knees to bring the feet flat to the floor. And move any props out to the side. And then to rebound, you can either come to lay down onto your back and take some knee sways, or you can lean back into your hands and sway the knees side to side. So whatever feels good. If there's any other movement that feels nice, always listen to your body and just follow what your body needs after each shape. There's no wrong or right, it's just whatever you need. And the more you can really listen to what your body's asking for you, the more that we can become body-led. And then that's a really nice gateway into listening to our intuition and following what feels right for us. It's that simple act of listening to what the body needs. So we take about a minute, minute and a half to rebound, just to let the energies flow back. And this is a really nice space to see what the shape previous actually did for the body. So you might feel flushes of energy, maybe a hot or a cold feeling. You might feel tingling energy. You might not feel anything at all. Let's just take one more round of breath wherever you are. And then we are going to come down onto our backs to come into a twist. So if you'd like to, you might want to bring a blanket underneath your head so you've got a nice ledge to rest your head onto. And you might want to use a bolster. So we're going to take that to the left side of the mat. And then come down onto your back and just hug your knees into your chest. So lift up the tailbone so you feel like a nice lengthening into your tailbone. And then we can keep the right knee into the chest and extend your left leg all the way out long. So you want the bolster or the cushions just beside your hip, so we can use that as a ledge for the leg to rest onto. So take the grip into your left hand, right arm can go out to the side in like a T shape on the right side. Take an inhale here. And as you exhale, guide the right leg across the body to come into a twist. You may need to lift up onto the side of your hip, so just readjust. And we want to keep the right shoulder blade down on the floor. If you need to bring a blanket or cushion underneath your right shoulder blade, you can do that. And then if it feels good, you can look across your right shoulder. So we're just increasing the stretch in the spine. And then let your breath again come back into your belly. So it's a nice deep belly breath. This is again stimulating that downward movement of energy. We're going to be here for about 2.5 minutes. So we've got about 2 minutes left. So just make any final adjustments and then find stillness. Just seeing if there's anywhere in the body that is resisting, that's holding or tensing. Take a quick scan through. And on your exhale, see if you can just soften that part of the body. Again, finding that release. The yin is all about surrendering and just letting the body completely drop, completely letting go. So I'll see for around another 4 or 5 breaths. So just finish the round of breath that you're on here. And with your next inhalation, guide your head back through to center and slowly roll onto your back. Just realign the spine, take the legs out long. Take a moment to rest. Make any little adjustments so you fall back into the center. And then you can draw your left knee into the body. Give that a little squeeze in. Again, just move your props over to the opposite side. Hug that left knee in. Take an inhale here. Extend out through the left arm, and as you exhale, gently guiding the left leg across to the right side body. And again, set up through the shoulders, so both shoulder blades are down on the floor. And if it feels good for the neck, looking over the left shoulder this time. So find your space, find the edge of the stretch, and then pause into stillness. We quite often dismiss how powerful it is to just pause. When we stop, we find stillness in everything. In the mind, the body, the rhythms. Life slows down a little bit. And we get so much clarity just from that pausing. Take a moment to really view all that's sitting there just beneath the surface. Everything that's been stirring and swirling around. We actually take a moment to be able to see that. And often when we're struggling or rushing through life, we don't take note of the more subtle aspects which can go amiss when we're rushing or we're stressed or we have loads on our plate. And it's often the small whisperings that are the most potent in helping us see where we need to be going, what changes we need to make to realign ourselves. The whispering of our intuition and our soul. It's always there trying to guide us back to truth, our highest aspect. So just taking another 2 rounds of breath here. And then once you finish that round of breath, just gently guide your head back to center as you inhale and slowly roll onto your back. You can bring the feet to the floor if you want to either bring the knees into the chest or extend the legs out. Maybe take some knee sways, some back rolls, whatever feels good. Just coming into that rebound again. Noticing any changes, any releases, let your breath move how it needs to. Taking in movements that help you to find more release. Maybe you just find stillness again. Okay, so when you're ready, just roll to a side and then use your top hand to gently press you up to a seat. We're going to come to all fours and moving into child's pose from here. So there's a few options. You can either work just taking the knees together, sit back onto the heels. You might want to use a bolster at the end of your mat and rest your arms onto the bolster just to give the arms more of a stretch. Maybe using the bolster lengthways in between the knees might feel good to rest the body onto, and you can hug around the bolster. Also propping up might feel quite nice. As we move into the later part of the evening, when we bring the head lower than the heart, it can feel a bit of a strong pressure where the blood pressure has changed. So if you feel that you're getting a bit too much of a head rush, that could be why. So you can keep the head elevated. You might want to use a blanket behind the back of the knees just to create a little bit more space in the knee joint. And you can always tuck it underneath the ankle joint as well, just so you feel completely supported. We're going to be here for 5 minutes. If your head's turned to one side, I'll let you know when we're halfway through and you can turn. But just finding a comfortable space to really rest your body into. So Child's Pose is a really beautiful pose to really draw the body back inward, draw the mind in. It's a very safe pose. It signals to the nervous system that we're drawing back inward, we're safe, we're protected. And it is like that fetal position which you go into when there's any shock or fear. So it's a very nurturing position for the body to be into. So just let the breath really flood into the belly. You feel nice deep belly breaths. This is also going to signal to the body to move into the parasympathetic nervous system, coming into rest and digest. So if you've turned your head to one side, you can gently look to the opposite direction, just here for another 2.5 minutes. So just take another 2 more rounds of breath here. And then gently guide yourself back to the center, and you can slowly start to pad yourself up to a lifted position as you inhale. Just take your time to come up. And just sitting back onto the heels. Take a moment to pause here, just feeling the head and the heart back over the hips. And then you might like to come into a rebound to stretch the legs out. So maybe a downward facing dog would feel good. Or maybe even just all fours and pedal the legs out. So just taking a few moments just to stretch the legs before we come into the next shape. So just take one more breath wherever you are. And then there's a couple options for your next shape. We're going to move into either saddle or into Sphinx. So if you're quite comfortable using no props for saddle, feel free to. But you might want to use a bolster, and maybe a bolster with a cushion or something just to elevate it a little. And if you find it difficult to sit onto the floor without any props, also might need a brick underneath your sit bones. We're going to come to bring the feet either side of the hip. So bring your sit bones down to the floor, and you want your heels on the outside edge of your hip. And then you can work to slowly lean back onto your cushions or bolster to come into saddle. If that feels too strong or definitely not doable today, then just grab your props, move them out to the side, and we can come down into Sphinx Pose. So you're just letting your body come down to the floor, and then taking the elbow slightly further forward off the shoulder. You can relax the feet back, and if you have your feet about hip width apart, this gives your lower back a little bit more space. If it feels good to add any props here, you might want to bring a cushion or a blanket underneath the chest. And you can always work to bring your head into your hands, so you're resting your chin onto your hands. You're just finding whichever position feels good. And we're here for just 2 minutes. So as we come more into the practice, we feel that the body is beginning to slow down and come into that more calm pace. And we can really feel that in the body dropping. You can feel the breath softening and relaxing. Maybe even the muscles relaxing a little more too. And as the whole body starts to soften and relax, we can get a bit more of a clear picture of the different fluctuations of the mind. We're just taking the next few moments to really tune into what is arising, what has been arising in the mind throughout the day, throughout the practice, throughout each shape. Where does your mind habitually go to? And then when we start to really acknowledge these comings and goings of thoughts, maybe different patterns, to-do lists, living in the past or the future, we can really start to see that we are not those thoughts. We're not that busyness of the mind. We are what is watching that. We're the peace that sits just behind those thoughts. And when you really drop into that space and you feel the expansion of that space behind the thoughts, the mind can start to come more into the space of peace. And we can really start to let go of our attachments, our connections to these thoughts, these arising fluctuations of the mind, and move beyond the thinking mind, back into that higher space of pure awareness and consciousness. So just take your last round of breath here. And then if you're in Sphinx Pose, you can either gently lift to all fours and press back to Child's, or even just rest down onto your front. And if you're in saddle, just gently tuck in the chin to the chest. Bring your hands beside your hips. Squeeze your core and gently lift yourself back up to sit onto your heels. Let's just pause for a moment. And then you can come to an all fours position, just stretching out the legs, maybe into a downward facing dog, or just bringing the knees in closer and sit back onto the heels and rest. Just taking a rebound, however feels good for your body. So when you're ready, just moving your props out to the side if there's any on your mat. And we're going to take the legs out in front. So just spinning yourself around to come to a seated position. And then you might want to use a bolster or some cushions underneath the backs of the knees. We're moving into caterpillar, so a forward fold. So just take any props again that you might need, maybe a blanket underneath the sit bones. It's really nice to rest your legs over a bolster. It gives the knees a nice softness, and we get a really good compression of the belly to the thighs as we fold forward. So this is more about that compression and a nice extension of the spine rather than the hamstring stretch. So just finding whichever props you might need. And take an inhale, lengthen up through the spine. And as you exhale, just slowly start to pad yourself forward so you begin to fold over the legs. And if that feels good for you to just pause in halfway, you can stop there. Or if you want to start to increase the stretch into the back of the neck, just let your head drop forward. Let the shoulders roll forward. Just let the body curve into the stretch. If it feels more comforting for the shoulder joint, you can also let your hands go behind you. And if you need to add any props to support the head, maybe a block might feel nice, and then you can make the stacked fists and rest your forehead down onto that. And maybe even hugging a bolster or some pillows might feel nice. Resting that underneath the chest. And again, breathe into the belly. You get that nice massaging effect of the internal organs. And just encouraging the energy, prana, to move down. Just take a moment to bring your mind back to your intention. What is it that you can create anew? What can you make change for? So that you move into alignment with a more truthful version of you, of the life that you want to be living. And when we set intention and very clear and direct about what it is that we want, we can really start to push our energy towards that. And we see bigger change, we see faster change as well, because we're affirming and intending to do something. We're not just floating through life. We have a goal, we have a purpose, we have vision. And then any patterns, habits, the perceptions of ourselves that are not aligning to that intention are more clearly and easily seen, released and transformed. Just take a moment to really think about maybe just one area or aspect. Could be a way of thinking or a routine, habit, something that stops you from living in your highest. The one kind of obstacle that you see. Bring it to mind so that you can begin to work on that and move forward from that place. Just taking another 2 or 3 rounds of breath. Once you finish that round of breath, just take your time as you inhale to slowly lift yourself back up. Just moving any props to the side. And it might feel nice to just lean back and stretch the legs out. Maybe it might feel good to come down into Shavasana, or maybe take a full body stretch. Anything that really allows you to feel a nice release after that forward fold. Begin any final movements and stretches that you might need. We're going to move into Shavasana from here. You might want to prop up behind the back of your knees again, just to let your legs relax. And you might also want to bring a blanket underneath the back of your head. If you've got anything to cover your eyes as well, or you might want to turn the lights down. Just taking the feet about as wide as your mat so they're nice and relaxed. You can feel the tailbone tucking under, the shoulder blades roll down the back, and then take the arms out wherever feels comfortable, either out to the side or you can rest them onto the body. And then just finishing with some abdominal breathing. So I'm going to allow the navel to really expand, the belly to swell as you inhale. And as you exhale, feel the navel draw back to the spine and that downward movement of energy. Nice deep releasing feeling. Very, very grounding for both the mind and body. You can almost feel your body sinking into the floor with every exhale. And the body feel heavier and heavier. And just releasing the focus of the breath and allow yourself to rest completely effortlessly. Gradually begin to breathe deeper into the belly once again. And feel the energy of your breath into the hands and feet, whole body breathing again. And just slowly start to energize your body, moving the fingers, the toes, maybe turning the head side to side or stretching through the hands, the feet, the ankles, the wrists. And then making some bigger movements, maybe drawing the feet to the floor so the knees are bent and taking some knee sways or hugging the knees in, maybe a full body stretch, whatever feels good. And then when you're ready, roll onto your side, just pause on your side for a moment. Just breathing into the back of the body. And with your next inhalation, slowly pressing into the top hand, lift yourself back up to a seat. I'm going to move into just some pranayama and meditation to finish. So make sure that you're comfortable and the seat is lifted up. So you might want to sit onto some bricks or a bolster, some thick blankets, whatever you have to hand. And either in Shavasana, like I'm sitting, or with cross-legged, or any other version of seat that feels good. And just resting the hands down wherever feels comfortable, either onto the lap or the knees, thighs. As you inhale, lengthen up through the spine, open up through the heart space, and relax the shoulders back and down. And just start to close down through the eyes again. Let's move into a very, very simple breathwork practice, Pranayama, which is just simply researching and taking note of the breath. So feel the breath moving in through both nostrils. And as it travels up, it meets in a point around the eyebrow center, around the midbrain area. So it looks like an upturned V shape as you breathe in. Just meeting there. And as you exhale, it travels back down, out through both nostrils. Just becoming aware of the temperature of your breath. Noticing a slight cooler temperature as you inhale. And as you exhale, feeling a slight warmth to the breath. Feeling the quality of the breath. Does it feel quite smooth? Or is it more raspy? How does the breath move in to the body and out of the body? And feeling the more subtler energies of the breath. There's almost a lightness or a vibration that rides on the breath. And just feeling that subtleness of the energy of the breath. You breathe in and out. Maybe even acknowledging a slight change in that energy or the vibration, the lightness of the breath. And then begin to gather the breath at the mid-brain area. So the point just between the eyes or in the middle of the forehead area, in the midbrain. So as you inhale, visualize all of the breath meeting up at that midbrain point. And as you exhale, feel the breath again move out of both nostrils. As you breathe in, visualizing the mind of this midbrain area is like a magnet, and it's collecting any negative thoughts, habits, energies, anything dense in the body that's not necessary or needed anymore. Seeing all of these energies, thoughts, habits, patterns collecting at the midbrain of every inhale, gathering more and more, magnetizing it to it. And then feeling that you've collected and gathered all of these energies into the midbrain. With your next inhalation, send the breath down the spine, all the way to the bottom of the spine, into the pelvic floor, the base of the spine. And just pause, holding and lifting the pelvic floor, lifting Mula Bandha. Pause with the breath held in, and feel all of these energies now dragging down to the base of the spine. And then once you feel ready and you feel that you've collected all of the energy, on your exhalation, release the breath down through the pelvic floor and into the earth. And the earth will take all of these negative energies and use it as compost, and then bring the mind back up to the third eye, the midbrain area. Again, that magnetizing effect. And as you inhale, pull the breath and the magnetized energies down to the pelvic floor. Hold here with the breath in. And once you feel that you've gathered enough, again, release the pelvic floor and let the energies flow back into the earth. We're just creating this circuit, inhaling from the midbrain down the spine, pulling, magnetizing, dense energy, unwanted energy, holding it, lifting the pelvic floor, and exhaling, releasing the pelvic floor, releasing these energies as compost into the earth. Just move at your own pace and really feel all of these energies being dragged out of the system, out of the mind. Any toxicity, any waste, anything that is holding you back, not serving you, is creating a weight in the body. Allow yourself to collect it and release it so it can be transformed. Just continue at your own pace. Now just take one more full round through. And then once you finish that next exhale, just return to a normal, natural, effortless breath. And bring your awareness into the sacral center, so the lower belly area, and visualize a downward pointing blue triangle. And from that triangle, visualize from the end point, blue lightning bolts shooting down into the earth. Again, releasing anything toxic, negative, any waste, any byproduct out of the mind, the body, all of the systems being cleansed and released with every pulsation of the lightning bolt into the earth. Just rest your mind and your awareness here in that downward pointing blue triangle. And the lightning bolt shooting out the tip of the triangle. Gently releasing the focus of the meditation and guide yourself back to your breath. Maybe sensing a lightness of being, lightness in your mind, your body. Bringing hands into prayer, resting the thumbs onto your heart space. Taking a nice cleansing, deep breath into the belly. And a sigh out. Releasing, just taking 2 more of that nice deep breath into the body. And sighing to release. And one more nice deep breath in, cleansing. And exhale, releasing. Bowing your head down. Offering gratitude to yourself for taking this time to practice. Offering gratitude to our bodies for all that they do for us and all that they teach us. And gratitude to the practices of yoga. May we use these practices to illuminate all that is standing as an obstacle in our way to realigning back to the truth of who that we are. May we forever honor and acknowledge the importance of releasing and letting go to make space and transform ourselves and our lives and the world around us to more harmony, more peace, more joy, and more alignment to our authentic self. Namaste. Thank you so much, everyone.